Okay, I think I'm live. If anybody's out there, let me know that you can hear me and see me and Blaze okay. I just want to do a quick little video today talking about something that I call the lost art of integration in relation to energetic healing, spiritual healing. So hopefully this will be of interest to you and also support you. It's not a judgment. It's certainly, I've done this before many times in my healing career, if you want to call that, just on my, once I started on the spiritual path. And at this junction, when there's so much shifting in the collective consciousness, and I'm sure you guys are all feeling it, like there's crazy dreamscapes going on and there's lots of things happening in the 3D and people are really sort of fragmenting and coming apart, coming back together again. There's lots of interesting things that are affecting individuals. There's lots of collective cultural things that are going on around the world. It's like the washing machine cycle has just been turned up another notch. And this is part of the, the shifting that we've been anticipating for eons, not just in our own lifetimes. Everything needs to fall apart to come back together again. So the integration is a key part of anybody's spiritual journey. And it's the part of your journey that happens after you've had a healing sessions, for example, with a practitioner. And that might be with a shamanic practitioner, it might be with a kinesiologist, a chiropractor, a naturopath, an acupuncturist, anybody who's working with the body, mind, spirit in that capacity. So what I'm seeing is that it's like the energy of follow through is not being connected with and then honoured. Almost like, if you have an organic, an analogy for you, an organic skincare company, and then you send the packages off wrapped in bubble wrap. Like there's no follow through all the way through. If you're going to be organic and environmentally conscious and friendly, then your packaging obviously needs to mirror the ingredients of what's in that said product. So it's the same thing when we're having healing sessions. There's a follow through phase that we need to activate within ourselves. We need to commit basically to have the discipline to follow the energetic flow of whatever was initiated in the session when we were with that particular person, and be gentle with ourselves for the next few days. In my experience, and certainly with my own sessions, I can only speak to my own sessions, of course, anywhere from 5 to 7 days is the integration phase for my clients. It might be shorter for other people, depending on what their work is. But I just want to talk about that day because after we've had a session, and I know we're all busy, we've all got families and situations and responsibilities to look after and to meet. So it is a challenge in the modern world to actually have enough time, A, to even get to a healing session, and then B, to have that rest time for yourself afterwards, especially if you've got children and you're working, etc. So I get that, and I've had to navigate that myself. But this is the really important phase because in this, it's almost like post-surgical time, after your actual hands-on session with somebody, this is where all the magic happens and where all the opportunities actually come together, pull together, so that you can access the healing that you actually want and that you deserve as well. So if we've had a healing and we have an amazing experience on the table, and then we get home and we go straight back onto our devices, it's hard because we've all got phones, of course. We need those to survive and to in this technological world. And here I am on the computer. I get the irony, obviously, of reaching out to you through this medium, but this is where we're at right now, especially in the last couple of years. Unless, like me, there's many of us who are still actually and always have and always will keep seeing people in person. So you've had your healing, you go home, you turn on the television if you've got a TV, or you check your phone, you go back onto FaceCrack, and you don't give yourself time to just sit and be with, or you do for a short amount of time. Your practitioner might say, go and have some lunch, go sit by the beach, go sit in the park, put your feet on the earth and take your time to get back to work, linger a little bit, or just go home, have a nap in the sun, hydrate yourself, those sorts of things. Most people can do that for a short amount of time. But if we go straight back into, for example, into the social media and certainly into certain threads in groups where we know we get agitated, we feel like, that urge to go and participate in conversations that really don't serve us, or we're unable to make that time for ourselves because there's some sense of unconscious resistance as well, then we don't get that follow through that's so necessary in my experience. So if you're scrolling, you go back down your rabbit holes, you're going into those areas that you may not have a trigger, the trigger or the charge to whatever that experience was that you healed with that particular practitioner may not be there, but straight away in integration, as I said, it's like post-surgery. You've got to be really gentle with yourself and nurturing and nourishing. So there still is the potential for you to unconsciously just swing back into that energetic, the one that you have just committed to releasing and leaving behind. So you're going into forums, for example, or maybe you're going down rabbit holes and you're looking at things that are interesting and things that, you know, are necessary to learn about this world, but may be related to the fear or the terror or the angst that you were feeling before. So you kind of just automatically go back. It's a pattern, it's a loop. It loops you back into going, no, come over here, keep looking. So I'm seeing a lot of this. And again, I said I've done it myself many times before, which is why I'm speaking to it now. So wherever if you're doing that, it's kind of, it's an excuse to a degree, but it's also revealing where, you know, where a little bit more of your work is, because any self-healing work obviously is all about you. It's not actually about the person that is treating you. It's about you being in the space to receive that which you deserve and desire, and divine timing as well. You can see practitioners. Some people need to see practitioners 10, 20, 30 times, maybe more. Some people need to see the same person or a new person once or twice before their work is done. So I can't even speculate as to why that is, because I can't speak for every single person on the planet, obviously, but it's got a lot to do, in my experience, with people's energetics and where they are at in their life, and when they're at that point where they don't want to suffer anymore and they're ready to make a choice, and they've developed enough discipline as well, and enough physical, mental and emotional and energetic discipline to actually see something through now, because something big has happened in their life, and that's why they're at that precipice. So when I was talking about this with my students, which I've just started a new course a couple of weeks ago, we talk about spiritual hygiene and energetic protection and just those sorts of things. And we talked about integration, and I was like, to me, it's a no-brainer. And when we talk about a lot of spiritual things too, especially if we've been doing this work for many years, we roll off these phrases and these words just like, you know, like we say dog and coffee and just everyday words that we use. We don't quite often appreciate that a lot of people have no idea what we're talking about. So when I say integration, most people might be wondering, what on earth is she talking about? What does that mean? And so it's really important to keep going back to basics, and we're all, you know, living in student mind as well, of course, and needing to remind ourselves, sometimes on a daily basis, what we think we know and what is actually happening. Sorry, Blaze is going to be snoring here, so I'll try and talk over him. So I wanted to speak about, so I went, okay, most people may not even know what integration is. So in my perspective, in my experience as well, there are, rather than just say this is the only way that you can do this, I'm going to give you 3 different options, 3 layers of integration, starting with the best scenario, the ideal scenario, the most practical one for the majority of people, given life circumstances and you know, responsibilities, and then the last one, at the very least, do these things. Okay, so you can discern what you have time for, what you have energy for, brain space for, etc. But I'll start with the ideal integration. And again, this is in relation to the work that I've been doing for many years and what I've witnessed with my own clients and also my own processes, seeing other people and doing the work on myself as well. So again, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So the ideal integration, around about 5 to 7 days, I said, with my own personal work. Ideally, in a perfect world, no devices for 3 days. So that's including, you know, YouTube and television, and if you can, social media, Instagram, posting those sorts of things. If you have to have a phone, of course, you need to be in contact for things and emergencies, but no devices for 3 days. No other therapies in that space of your integration. Now, I've found over the years when I've done that myself, I've over-therapized myself almost. I've had a session, for example, with an acupuncturist, and then a day or two later gone and had a massage or a spiritual healing. It makes it harder to discern which body of work or modality actually had the desired effect, and things can get a little bit sort of mashed in together, for want of a better term. So in my experience and my own experience as well as with people, no other therapies, just allow your body to just, everything to land and your body to absorb the work that you've had with that one person in particular. Always seasonal food, some semi-fasting and lots of self-care. So when I say semi-fasting, I'm not saying starve yourself, of course, but just hydrating wherever you are in the northern or the southern hemisphere, looking at what your seasonal foods are, looking into your food remedies with traditional Chinese medicine, and taking time to really appreciate hunger and thirst as well, because in our privileged white Western world, we have everything on tap. And it's actually a really good thing for us to feel hunger, to feel an appetite rising. That works on across all layers of our energy, not just what we're feeling physically. Daily exercise, of course, yoga, qigong, Pilates, those sorts of things, going for a bushwalk, going for an ocean swim, sitting in a garden, talking to the trees, hugging them, all that sort of stuff. Really good, useful stuff, as much as you feel to as well. Some days you might just feel like you want to be sleeping most of the time. Having nano naps, again, this is the ideal integration. And no alcohol, no medications if you can get away with that, like Panadol, things like that, because quite often after healing sessions, you can get headaches and you can have digestive disturbances. And a lot of people, the tendency is just to reach for something and a quick fix to stop that. But if your body is giving you those sorts of signals, it's really important to pause and listen and try and breathe and nurture yourself through those changes with the things that I've just mentioned, with the remedies, the food, the fasting, and the exercise to move the energies through and out. Okay, so that's the ideal best integration scenario. The second one is the most practical for the majority of people, certainly for people who, with families who are working, who've got young children, etc. So you want to minimize your usage of devices or have none for at least 48 hours, maybe 72 as well. Again, that's going to be challenging in family situations. No alcohol, medications for at least 2 days, so hydrating yourself with other fluids. This is a big one as well, which is challenging for a lot of people because I've seen it, I've done it myself again, and I've seen it with clients as well. They'll have a session and then they'll be like, I've got a big party to go to tonight, or there's a big gathering, or some sort of festival or whatever. So no socializing immediately after a session, even if that means you can at least give yourself that whole day, that whole 24 hours, and into the next day before you do something that evening. That's really great because your energy is going to be open. And you're going to be very receptive, and you can pick up a lot of stuff from other people without realizing it. And again, time in nature, sitting in the sunshine when it's out, going for bushwalks, putting your feet in the earth, swimming at the beach or just sitting on the beach, those sorts of things. Really important. So that's the most practical. For most people can do that. You can usually have a couple of days where they can just do a little bit of a digital detox. And I mean, if things like alcohol and chocolate and sugars and coffee, etc., are really hard for you to not even do for a day or two, then that in itself is an indication that there's some sort of habitual program there, and that may not be the best thing for you. So again, journaling all these things and keeping a note of what comes up for you physically, but then also how you respond emotionally and mentally to what's going on through your integration too. So at the very least, please try and do these things. No devices for at least 24 hours afterwards. So minimal devices, if nothing. Even if you say if you're having a healing in the morning, then at least wait till the evening or the afternoon where you can get on if you have to. Work situations, etc. If you are a really busy person and you rely on the computer for work, then perhaps maybe schedule your healings either for the weekends or for holiday schedules, things like that. No alcohol, drugs and medications, etc. at the very least, at least for 24 hours. Try and sit in the sun for at least 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes if you can, and just do it. Don't have to meditate if that's not your thing at all. Just lie down or sit in the sun and just breathe and appreciate the moment as best as you can. Drink more water, really important that you drink good quality filtered water, of course, and try and get earlier to bed. That's a big one too, because you can be very stimulated after healing sessions. You can a lot of people feel that they go home and they just crash and they have a nano nap, and that's quite normal as well. But you can also, after that energy flows down, you can come back up and be quite agitated or at least energized afterwards. So if you're doing all these things, you're not going back onto the devices, you're not agitating your system, especially in the afternoon from 3 to 5 when we go from yang to yin energy, and your body naturally, your whole psyche naturally just wants to slow down and get ready for bed and for communication and intimacy and those things in the evening, then at least getting early to bed before double digits, before 10 p.m. would be great. Okay. So if you don't, just some other things that came up for me, I'm just going to read it from here because there's just a little couple of pages. If you don't action the healing that you receive and participate by following through with your therapist's advice, you risk either minimal result, sometimes no result, but most importantly, recycling the same trauma that you went to that healer in the first place to work on and resolve. So it ends up being a waste of your time and your energy, not to mention your money, if you're not able to give yourself at least a window of 4 to 6 hours to really acknowledge and honor the work that has been done, that's been shared with you, and that on some level your higher self is actually saying, hey, tap on the shoulder, this is time for this stuff. Okay. So this is what creates, in my opinion, reliance on therapists, where we just go and see someone for maintenance once a week, once a month, or if you can afford once a week, fantastic, but maybe for most people every couple of months. And then you just knee-jerk back into your old habits and patterns. And that's not how the living man or the living woman, the sovereign being, behaves. It's all about responsibility, our ability to respond to ourselves and develop that accruing or accumulating sense of discipline and self-care for ourselves. So when we become reliant on our therapists, it doesn't put any pressure on the professional therapist who's been working for many years, maybe the ones that are just starting out, which, I used to feel overly responsible for my clients when I had just started into the industry. And that's a normal phase that you've got to work through and grow through. But if you can't show up for yourself and you can't be accountable for yourself and your actions, then you're not going to make better choices for yourself. And nobody can do that for you but you. Okay, it's like you've got to breathe the baby down. So even the best healers can funnel all of their medicine, all of their good juju into you. But if you're, again, not able and not giving yourself permission to receive that, then that medicine is not going to work. It'll just be like water off a duck's back. And that's also not their responsibility. So they're not responsible for your health and healing. You are, at the end of the day, always. And I hear this story a lot, and I get a lot of people coming to me where they say, oh, look, I've tried absolutely everything else and nothing's worked. And I love those clients because it shows that they've already been doing quite a lot of work on themselves, and it's probably just a matter of picking the needle out of the haystack situation. So every practitioner that they've seen before they come and see me is valid and has contributed to that pathway of getting this person closer and closer and closer to their tipping point, if you want to say, where they're actually ready to really make that deep change. But ultimately, only you can do that. And I know it's hard, and we all do it, and I've done it many times myself as well. But if we can't commit to us, if we can't give ourselves the healing that we need, and we can't recognize that we deserve that, and that's actually our natural state of being, then guess what? We can't heal the world. We can't have an impact on that greater global scale that so many of us in this sphere of self-awareness and self-awakening, actually that's the core of what we want. We just want to see everybody, all sentient beings, living happy and free as they deserve and desire. So we have to show up for ourselves first. And that means doing a little bit of hard work, pulling up the sleeves and actually being disciplined with ourselves, not hard, but disciplined with ourselves, so we can give ourselves the space to do this work. And then we can maybe share that with others, or do that work on and with others. I always tell people in my sessions that the healing work lands when they're presented with it's like a replay or a scenario that'll come up in that integration phase that I mentioned at the start of this video, which is between 5 and up to 5 to 7 days. They'll have some sort of situation that will come up in their life that brings up the exact thing that we worked with when they're on my table. And in my experience, and because of the way that my energy system works and how I work with clients, then that has always proven itself to be like such an integral moment. So you feel the old stuff. It's when the things of energies and the programs, if you like, have moved out of the energetic field and we've cleared all those stories and done all that work. It's not really fully landed until it's embodied. Yeah. So when you get that next moment, or you see your ex-boyfriend and all that fear and that angst comes up, or you hear something on the television, or you hurt yourself and then all those memories come flooding back, whatever it is, it's different for everybody. In that moment, that's your opportunity to recognize that and then stop and to breathe and allow that, because that's when the integration finally transmutes itself, or where that wounding, as I say, transmutes into your medicine. So this, in my experience and with my work, and I'd love to hear what your experience is with other people, and if you're a practitioner watching this, what your experience with your clients has been. But that is like, it's a replay of the situation. So it's kind of like the universe, your higher self saying, okay, so this is what you said you worked on, and now here's a scenario that's going to actually say to you, are you actually serious about that work that you did? And when that happens in that moment, that's your chance to respond differently than you have before. As I said before, everything's about choice. So when you make a choice, a new choice, no matter how difficult that is, how challenging that is, that's when your integration lands. And that's when you get the opportunity to really embody the work that you've received a couple of days later. Okay. I wanted to also mention too that as far as practitioners go, we may be good at our jobs, or we are good at our jobs. We like to think that we're good and we're in service to others, and this is why we're in the positions that we are. But we're not God, okay? So we can't influence anybody else's free will as much as we may like to, as much as we may see somebody suffering and we want to alleviate that suffering. It's always up to the individual there. We can work with them, we can support them as much as we possibly can, as much as they will allow us and as they need. But ultimately, it's somebody else's free will. So even if we're trying to influence somebody in a positive way, it's actually not our divine right to do that. As I said before, some people need to see 10 therapists or up to 50, 60, 100, maybe many times. They need to sit in plant medicine circles hundreds of times before something really shifts in their dynamic for them. And other people, it's a shorter process. So comparison to other people's healing journeys is futile in my experience. We do it because we're human and we see other people, and we just have this natural sort of tendency, I suppose, towards coveting what other people have, and then that again obviously is reflecting things that we feel we don't have in our life or that we are still working on, etc. But ultimately, everything's about divine timing. So you've got to keep going into that deep space of, like, if you're called to have a healing, if you're called to see a practitioner of a particular modality, then recognizing that that also means almost like you've got this invisible clause afterwards, where you go and see the person for the physical work, and then there is this integration phase afterwards that you also have to commit to get your full value as well for the time that you've invested in yourself and the energy that you've invested in yourself. Okay, so practitioners ultimately are there for support. They're there to witness, they're there to activate, help you activate your own sovereign power. Nobody else can actually choose that except you. So we need to acknowledge their gifts, obviously, and their grace and their wonderful work that they do. But ultimately, we also need to recognize that we are the best healers that we can be, and that we're all in this experience of being spirits in human suits together. And when we recognize that our lives can actually change with different choices, and when we drop into that space of integration and allow ourselves to feel everything that needs to be felt, and then transmute that wounding into our medicine, then that is when we start to reclaim the lost art of integration. So thanks for joining me. If you're watching the replay, love to hear your thoughts and your comments. And yeah, I will see you soon. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on demiashida.com. Got my menopause package up there, the womb well. Reach out for a free call, or just give me your feedback and your comments, and let me know if you'd like me to do some other videos on this topic or any other topics that you'd like me to talk to you about. Take care, and I'll see you soon.